Are you feeling like your brand could do with a little bit of a spruce up, a bit of a rebrand? Maybe you're not feeling proud of your brand. Maybe you're feeling like your business has changed. You need to upgrade things. Maybe you feel like your brand is just stuck in the past, or maybe what you created wasn't really professional in the first place and you're really ready to get that business looking professional. Today, I want to step you through the 5 foundational steps you need to do before you start your rebrand. Last week, I did a whole video around the guide to rebranding your business, which helped you really think about if rebranding was really what you needed right now and the things you needed to think about before you rebrand, the really foundational things. So today, we're going kind of a bit more granular into one of the steps that I shared there. So make sure you duck back and watch that video as well, because it's going to be so useful to this whole process, because we do not want to rebrand wrong. You want to make sure that you're rebranding correctly, because rebranding can cost a lot of money and it can take a lot of time. And there are both things that are very important to manage wisely in your business. And so today I want to help you to set those really great foundations so that when you do start that rebrand, it is going to be on point and really hitting the mark. Now, I usually do these things with my students inside my Co-Creation Design Club, where I get in with them. I'm kind of like the creative director. I give them the tools and we go back and forth brainstorming and doing that research and creating their brand together. So if you want to prepare to join me in the club, feel free to watch this and learn how to do those things so you can be totally on top of it. Or if you're wanting to DIY it yourself without any support, then these tips will be useful for you too. And so I want to step you through 4 key areas that are really important that you get right before you start that rebrand, plus a bonus step that kind of happens at the end of after all the research that you've done. So first, you need to know your business inside out. If you don't know the business that you're creating the brand for, you're going to feel really like floaty and unsure of what to actually commit to. And so what I want you to focus on is what I call the WOW brand model. The WOW brand model is what I teach to my students around the 3 areas you want to base your perfect brand on. It helps you think about your target audience, so your who. It makes you think about your originality, like what makes you unique, because you as a business owner are embedded in your business. Unless you've got a totally faceless business, this circle is really important because it's going to help you to show up authentically and you'll help your clients and audience to connect with you. And lastly, it's your why, of what do you want people to feel when they work with you. And together that spells WOW of who, originality, and why. And those are some really important things to base your brand on. I've done a whole video and podcast on this one. It's podcast episode 110, or the video, if you're looking for it, is called Inside My WOW Model. Or if you're watching on YouTube, I'll link the video here for you. And so first you need to do some brainstorming. Sit down with these 3 circles and really jot down, like, who is my target audience? Who am I working with? What does this actually need to look like practically? Who are the people that I'm trying to attract with this brand? Because that will play a huge difference in the way that your brand will actually look. Obviously, like if you're targeting middle-aged CEO man compared to if you're targeting a 5-year-old girl, your brand's going to look different. And those, even though that's a large difference, there are nuances in every single different target audience. So having that clarity is super important. Next, thinking about what you love, like what makes you tick. Like if I was to choose a brand that was khaki green, I probably wouldn't feel as connected to it as I do with my purple brand. But I've made sure my purple brand also reflects the people I want to attract and the why of my business. So it's not just because I love it. There's that crossover. So you'll see in this Venn diagram, it's the crossover of these 3 sections is where your perfect brand lies. So after you do the research of thinking about each of these 3 areas, then find, is there any crossover here? Does what my target audience love crossover with what I love? Or does what I love crossover with the kind of the vibe I want my brand to have? Like obviously colors can play a big role in the vibe that your brand will have. If you've got really dark, clean colors, or if you've got really bright and playful colors, your brand is going to feel totally different. So thinking these things through first is so important. Next is a step that people really forget, or they don't do it correctly, and that is to talk to your target audience. Now, the ways that people do this wrong is they talk to anyone. So the amount of times I've seen people post on like big random business pages of feedback on their logo or ideas for their brand, they're getting people that aren't their ideal audience. Like there is 1,000 million billion people in this world. You're not meant to target everyone. You need your brand to be specifically targeting your people. So when we do these market research questions to really get to know our brand and our audience, we want to make sure that we're talking to our particular audience, or a really trusted business mentor or graphic designer who knows what you're actually trying to achieve, not that you're just trying to make it appeal to them. And so I've got some questions here. Feel free to screenshot this page if you'd like to. I want you to ask your audience these questions. And so you could ask them in many different ways. You could ask them by emailing past clients or customers and saying, hey, you're a really valued customer or client. I would love to get your feedback on this brand. I'm going to create a new brand. I would love to get your thoughts on my brand as a valued customer or client. You could ask on your Instagram stories or an Instagram post. For me recently, I put a survey. I just made like a survey on like say Google Forms, and I put that into my Instagram stories, and I had people, my followers, answer these questions. However you're doing it, just make sure that whoever answers you're listening to are your target audience. So if you're getting a form or a survey done, just check who's answered that survey to make sure, yeah, they're my target audience, or nope, that was my mum. She filled that in too. Thanks, mum, but that's not really relevant right now unless you are targeting your mum. Same with like if you do a poll on your Instagram stories, check who's voted to see if they're actually your target audience before you go making this big brand sweeping decision when it's not actually relevant to your target audience. So some questions you might want to ask them are, how would you describe my brand or business in 3 words? What do you think makes my business different from other businesses? What initially attracted you to work with me and my business? How do you feel when you work with me or when you've purchased my product? So this is kind of getting into the feeling of what your brand will look like. And what colors or styles come to mind when you think of my business or my brand? And asking those questions are going to help, like you're going to have answers to this as a business owner, but getting the answers from your target audience on these will be so helpful. And you can also get feedback on your current brand. This is really helpful if you are doing that rebrand, and ask them what they think of your current brand. Again, making sure you're only asking your target audience. Ask them, how would you rate my current logo on a scale of 1 to 10 and why? Do my brand colors appeal to you? And if not, what colors do you think would suit me better? How do you feel about our current website design and layout? You could ask this about your Instagram feed or anything else you've got in particular you want help with knowing how the vibes are coming across to your audience. You can also ask, are there any specific design elements or styles you think we should incorporate? Because sometimes people have a really great idea. They're like, oh yeah, you totally should use X, Y, or Z. And lastly, do you think my current Instagram or insert any of your social media here looks good? If you're listening to the podcast, I'll add all those questions into the show notes for you as well. Or there is a whole blog post that goes along with each of these videos and these podcasts. So you can head there too for more written out steps. Just head to my website at whitedeer.com.au/podcast. All right, so next step, our step number 3 is to work out your brand positioning and your vibe. Like, what do you want people to feel when they work with you? What do you want people to feel when they see your business? Do you want them to you need to make sure that they align. Like, that if working with you is really like clarifying and clean and calming, make sure your brand looks that way. Or if your brand is really professional and corporate and proper, then make sure your brand looks that way. Or if you're like my brand and your brand, you want people to feel really playful and inspired and give them steps, then make your brand look that way. So on the screen right now, for those of you watching the video, I've got some words that you can have a look at. I'll add these to the blog post as well. And so thinking through, what are some 5 words you want your business to represent? Do you want your business to feel strong or bold or feminine, educational, soothing, reliable, nerdy or creative or serene or calming or childlike or restorative? There are literally thousands of words that you could use here, but I want you to think through and try to give yourself a task of finding 5 words that you want your business to represent, because that's going to help you to make sure that you use your branding to align with that. Secondly, how do you want your brand to be positioned? Are you a brand that's really playful, or you're a brand that's really serious? Where do you sit on that scale? Because that's going to impact the way that your business looks. If you're a really serious brand, you don't want a really playful logo, and vice versa. Similarly, is your brand feeling really feminine or masculine, or somewhere in the middle? Is your brand feeling really bold and playful and like, whoa? Or is your brand feeling really reserved and calming? Or are you somewhere on the scale of that? Is your brand really premium, or is it really affordable? Are you charging like thousands and thousands of dollars for your service, or are you charging $10 for your service? Because if you're a brand that is just like a really cheap, affordable brand, you don't want your brand looking really premium, because people who are looking for affordable things will just scroll past you because they're like, no, that business is out of my price range, before they even look at your prices. And vice versa, if you're a premium brand, having a really cheap looking brand will make people think, oh, I wasn't expecting to pay that much. No, thank you. They're not worth that. And so we need to make sure we're setting people up with what they see of our brand to how we position it. Similarly, are you really bright or are you really neutral? You can make 1,000 different scales for your business, but these are some of the common ones I use with my clients. And next, you need to create your Pinterest mood board. So when you have the clarity of all of those things that we've chatted about, we need to create a mood board to give us some inspiration. So I rarely, even as a designer, all designers that I know, they create a mood board for their clients before they start working with them. And I get my students to do this as well. And that's creating a set of inspirational images to give us direction for the brand. These aren't images that we're actually going to use in our branding. They're just ideas to give us that vibe and to give us that inspiration. So the best idea is to collate a heap of images to help you have that direction. So to have some ideas with your colors, to have some ideas for your logo ideas, to have some ideas for your fonts, to have some ideas for that overall vibe. And so because you've done those first 3 steps of talking to your audience, of finding that clarity, of knowing what your business is about, you're going to have some really, really great tools to help you search really specifically and strategically on places like Pinterest. If you haven't used Pinterest before, it's pretty much like a glorified Google image search. And yes, you can use it for your branding. You don't just have to use it for kitchen inspiration or your kids' party inspiration. You can use it for your brand inspiration too. So again, on the screen, if you're watching on the video, I've got some examples for you, and I'll pop this in the blog post if you are listening to the podcast. But there are finding some keywords. So that some of those keywords we were looking at before, you can use those as descriptors for the search terms that you use on Pinterest. So to give you some examples, you could search playful font pairings, or you could search minimal color palettes, or you could search bold photography. Using those different words with the different search terms you want to use will help you to find graphics and inspiration that are going to be really aligned to what you want your brand to be. So say, for example, my brand was a really playful brand. I would search things like playful color palettes, playful font pairings, playful graphic design, playful social media, playful artworks, playful illustration, playful photography, all of those different things. And you could mix and match as many words as you want to with the graphics you want to find. But you notice I'm not just searching photos, or I'm not just searching playful, I'm pairing that with what I want to find. Do I want to find a color palette? Searching even logo ideas, minimal logos, colorful logos. And you'll even search your business's type. So florist logo, life coach social media, florist fonts. Florist fonts will be a little bit tricky, but I'm sure that there would still be ideas that come up there. And then you can start pinning. So create a giant board, create a board on Pinterest, and begin pinning things to that board. So pin different colors, pin different fonts, pin different logo ideas, and you'll begin to see that some patterns will emerge for you. So when you go to create your brand, you'll be like, oh, I pinned green so many times. Let's lean into that for my brand. Or I pinned this kind of logo so many times. Let's experiment with that for my ideas. So doing this Pinterest board will just help you to find so much clarity as you then go into creating your logo and your brand later. Speaking of creating logos, the next video and podcast I'm going to share with you is all about brainstorming your logo ideas. So make sure you join me for that one if you haven't already. Now, before I share with you the bonus final step that I want you to do here, I want to invite you to my masterclass that I'm sharing on August the 22nd, 2024. So if you're ready to effortlessly attract, seamlessly convert, and professionally deliver client experiences that your people rave about through strategic branding, then I would love to have you join me for my free masterclass. Get your ticket at the link in the description or in the show notes, and it's going to be an incredible session together. You're not going to want to miss this. All right, and so that final step I want to share with you is after you've done that mood board, I want you to talk to your clients again. I want you to ask them and I want you to give them ideas and concepts. I want you to talk to them and show them some things that you've pulled together and ask them, like, do you like this color palette or that color palette? What feelings does these images that I pulled together evoke in you? Do you think that what I've pulled together here represents my business and what I do well? Again, you're asking your ideal client this. You're asking people that you've worked with before, people that you know you work with well, or that trusted business mentor. Not anyone and everyone. You don't care about anyone else's opinion other than the people that you want to attract in your business. And ask them for opinions on your mood board. Get two of the color palettes you're really loving and say, do you prefer this one or that one? Ask them which fonts they're preferring out of some different options you've pulled together. Ask them what their favorite thing that they see in your mood board is. And ask them if, after looking at this, if they have any suggestions that they might want to give you. So next week, I'm going to talk to you about how to brainstorm your brand logo ideas. Make sure you hit follow and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next episode.